Well, good morning, and thank you all for joining us here for our breakout session as you all come in. This breakout session is the mental health collaborative effort with the Division of Juvenile Justice using trauma-informed treatment models. So I hope you are in the right place. And yeah, so here we go. We have with us today DeVault, Jeannie, and Shay. So welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today. As we come in, let us give people a minute or so to come in, and we will put up a banner just to ask a question so we can get the chat going. Anybody who would like to, can you let us know how long you've been a resource parent? And I don't know when or how this stuff pops up, so forgive us as we continue to learn this platform. Good morning, Joseph Allen. So Joe says he's been a resource parent for about 5.5 years. How long have y'all been with Pinnacle?
Oh my. A long time.
15 years, I think, for me, 15, somewhere in there.
And for me, it was 2006, so about the same or a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And Brett,
Shay, how long have you been with the foundation?
Yeah, I've been at the foundation now for a little over 2 years, but prior to that, we're also worked at Pinnacle for about 10.
Yeah.
I was for about 10 years.
Yeah.
So y'all been together for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Well, without further ado, I'm gonna get out of your guys' way. For everybody joining us, please feel free to put any questions in the chat, in the comment section. And as we go through, if the presenters have a space to stop and ask questions, I will make sure to push those questions to them. If not, we will make sure we get to as many questions as we can towards the end of the presentation. I've been asked to ask you all to grab a piece of paper and a pen or some sort of writing utensil for the activity that we're going to be doing today. So without further ado, y'all, I will remove the banner and you guys can take it away.
Thanks, Will. Welcome, everybody. My name is DeVault Clevenger. I'm the clinical director for Pinnacle Family Services. Jeannie and Shay will introduce themselves and we'll proceed.
I'm Jeannie King. I am the executive director of therapeutic foster care for Pinnacle Family Services.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shay Cunningham, and I am the program consultation director with the Family Centered Treatment Foundation.
Thanks, Shay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start with a sense-in activity called the 5-4-3-2-1 activity. And we're going to do this right now. And that's why we wanted you to have pen, pencil, or and paper. And so we're going to do the activity all through 5-4-3-2-1. And then I'll ask for a volunteer for each of the numbers. So first of all, look around yourself, and you can look at the screen or look in the room or the environment that you're in, and find 5 things that you can see right now. 5 things that you can see right now. and write those down on your paper. And next, 4 things that you can touch right now. So look around and find 4 things that you can touch. Reach out and touch. Write those 4 things down. Next, 3, and I like my number 3 on the screen. 3 things that you can hear right now. 3 things that you can hear. Write those 3 things down. Then 2 things that you can smell right now. 2 things that you can smell, and write those 2 things down. Then 1. So usually this would be 1 thing that you can taste right now. And since the format that we're in, that may be a little bit difficult. So if you cannot taste something right now, write down 1 thing that you like about yourself. So either 1 thing that you can taste or 1 thing that you like about yourself. So hopefully everybody has written the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And in the comment section, if there would be 1 person that would volunteer to type in the 5 things that they saw. And I think that Will, when he sees 5, he'll just read the 5, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, so if in the comment section, if you can just type your 5 things, if you're willing to share, that'd be awesome. Everybody can hear one of the 4 things I could hear. 3 things I could hear.
Has anybody typed in?
Not yet. Not yet.
Jenny, what's 1 thing that you can see right now?
I can see a chair.
Shay, what's 1 thing that you can see right now?
I see my purse.
Will, what's 1 thing that you can see right now?
My computer. We have Nicole, and I apologize, Nicole, if I get your name wrong, Hummel. She said she can see water, TV, fridge, keyboard, and stairs.
Okay. Thanks, Nicole. Can somebody type in the 4 things that you can touch? Jeannie, while we wait. Okay, go ahead, Will.
We have well, I was just gonna say we have some more people saying the things that they can see as if.
Okay.
Or Phoebe, she just put in her 4 things she can touch. She can touch her phone, a pen, some paper, and a desk. Sounds like you in a home office, Phoebe.
So that's great, Phoebe. Now, the third one, 3 things that you can hear, and we know one of the things that Will can hear, but 3 things that you can hear.
Phoebe confirmed for us that she is in an office. Jesus said that he can hear birds, breeze, and most importantly, a dog snoring.
Oh, maybe it sounds like he might be outside or the door's open to hear the birds.
We also have Lindsay saying she can hear baby chicks that are in her house, in their house.
Wow.
An air purifier and a car.
Okay, wonderful. Next, 2 things that you can smell. 2 things that you can smell.
Yes, you can smell. Some other things people could hear were us. Somebody's hammering in planes, said Tracy.
Jenny,
So 2 things that you can smell.
Jenny, what one thing that you can smell right now?
Lotion that I put on my hands.
Okay. Shay, what about you?
My perfume.
Okay. So let's move on to.
Sheena said that she can smell air fresheners and cookies. And Beth said, Tracy said she can smell grass and sawdust.
Oh. So the cookies can be a snack for later before lunch, right?
I can smell donuts. We had Saturday morning is donut morning in my home. So we have donuts out. So.
And let's go with, if somebody could type in one thing that you like about yourself.
Sheena, if those cookies are a snack, I hope you brought enough to share. Carolyn said that she can be fun. Elizabeth said that she is persistent. Michelle said she's open-minded, and Jesus said patience. Lots of great things.
Oh, yes, lots of great things.
Caring, resourceful. I was vain. I said my hair.
That's funny. So the sense in activity 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we've done this today with you all adults, but you can see that we could do this with youth. We could do this with children, and we could do this in the moment. So one thing that we know about trauma-informed care is that sometimes all of us, when stressed, we kind of, it's called flipping your lid. We go to our offline brain, and so we can't think really well when we're flipped our lid. And so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is an activity that would help us reset. It's called a reset action. And you could actually break it up and do 5 things that you can see, and not do the rest, to help the brain reset. And so for us in this sense in activity, the reason that we want to start this is that on Saturday, well, first of all, we know that Will has children with him during this virtual presentation. And so he may be a little stressed about that with the activities that he's got to pull off today. And some of us, for example, my wife wants me to do something with her later today. And so I want to make sure that I get this activity done and then meet her needs as well. And so as we go into this presentation today, it's good that we can reset our brain and focus ourselves, because when we have our online brain going, then we hear better, we communicate better, we plan better, and we can do better things. You can learn better today based on this sense and activity. Several years ago, and Shay, you said 10 years that you worked for. It's probably that long ago that I used this. I came up with this quote: "Trauma is the ongoing reality of life. Healing is the ongoing work of life." And that's true for all of us. That's not just true for our foster kid. That's just not true for a parent that is having issues. It's true for all of us, because trauma is the great equalizer of life. Sometimes the trauma is more severe for some people, but we've all experienced trauma. And the effects of COVID-19 adds stress and trauma globally for each of us. So we're in hopefully going out of that, but the effects will carry forward that we have all gone through this past year. One of the mantras of trauma-informed care is don't ask me what's wrong with me, ask me what happened to me. When I think about foster kids, for example, and foster kids youth, the mental health system is really based on a medical model, and we have to find a diagnosis. And to find a diagnosis, we're looking at what's wrong, and I'm using quotes. What are the symptoms? What's going on? What's the behaviors going on? To get services for kids, and so we have to do that based on the system that we're in, but we also need to balance that with also understanding what happened to the person, what happened to that child, what happened to the family as we work in the system. So why trauma-informed care with me? You saw my quote, and that was 10 plus years ago that I've been interested in trauma. But 5 years ago, I actually had a stroke, and that stroke took away my ability to speak. I was out of work for 4 months, and I had to go through speech therapy. One reason that I want you to know that is sometimes I get tongue-tied even now, and so it's the drink here is actually a strawberry drink and not wine. If you hear me stumble over a few words, but also because I couldn't speak for a while, I got a new perspective of children that don't have the words many times to express their feelings, to express the trauma that they've gone through. So it gives me a different perspective and understanding for the kids that we work with. So one thing I wanted to let you all know about Pinnacle Family Services each week for 87 weeks, we've produced our Tuesday Trauma and Resiliency Tips. And it's a weekly newsletter that goes out. It's mailed out across the state to our stakeholders. 5,000 plus editions are mailed out each week. This week on Tuesday, the past Tuesday, our Trauma and Resiliency Tips was about Mental Health Awareness Month. So there's lots of links and resources and articles within that. The link is there on the screen. And if you click on that and you see week 87, in the top left-hand corner, you can subscribe and get this ongoing. And you can also, in the left-hand corner, there's another button where you can view past issues. The past issues go back to sometime in December of last year, not all the way back because we did a new format. Now, this next week, week 88, so next Tuesday, we will have their part 2 of this being National Foster Care Month. And that's one of the reasons that this summit is happening today. But next Tuesday, there'll be an edition, part 2 of National Foster Care Month with some stories from foster kids and other activities and resources. So I encourage you to look at that. So trauma in the brain. So the kids that we work with, we know research tells us that early trauma alters brain development. We know that trauma affects most of We were talking with Will earlier, and all foster kids have, by the nature of foster care, have experienced some type of trauma. We also know through research that childhood trauma even affects us into adulthood, and that a traumatized brain functions differently. And so we could get kind of down and out about that research, but this slide about resiliency helps us to understand that there are things that we can do. And so each of us, there's in the middle where the person is, that fulcrum, there's things about each person, your genetics, your DNA, your own resiliency score, and your adverse child experiences score, your own life story, your personality will change where you would be on left or right. And then on the left, there are hard things or stressors that all of us experience. Foster kids experience a lot more of hard things and stressors. And I also said that we've all experienced COVID this year. Even the kids have experienced COVID. But on the right side, and look at the picture, because we want to build up and the things that are good and the resources. So that would be how we become resilient. So people that we can count on. And for a foster kid, a foster parent is one of the people that they can count on. Having a safe house for a foster kid, and being able to get to doctors, for example, but also having things to do, running and playing and art, things to do for the kid that would give them self-confidence and knowing how to work in a team and that kind of thing. So we want to balance, well, not just balance, we want to add, so we're getting a child and even yourself more resilient over time. I'm going to hand the presentation over to Jeannie, that's going to lead us in some more conversation.
So, as part of what Devalt has been talking about and utilizing some trauma-informed models, which are our family-centered treatment, which Shay will talk a little more about, and our fostering solutions model, which we'll talk some more about a little bit later as well, we have tried to utilize those models in collaboration with our juvenile justice population. We have some JCPC grants, which is your Juvenile Crime Prevention Council grants. We do that in Catawba County, Cleveland County, Gaston, and Lincoln. We also provide crisis beds that we utilize for this population in Cabarrus County. And we work with the North Carolina Juvenile Justice Behavioral Health Partnerships, which for some of you who may know was previously what they called JSAM. And then we also do this District 19 grant, where we create a combination of the two services to try to help get services in place faster for this population. Because as we know, the sooner we can get services going, the sooner we can help them begin to identify the trauma that's going on, and we can begin to help them heal. So we do this through collaboration with teamwork. We do it through creating supports for them. And we try to motivate them to continue to follow the services once they come out of our program, which is a 30-day program, and go into the service that can continue to work with their family.
Do you want me to advance
Yep.
the slide?
Please.
Okay.
So why did we even want to do this? Part of that was because there was a need for the youth accessing mental health services more timely, being able to get services started with that family as quick as possible, so that we didn't have to have them go into detention unnecessarily, go into some higher levels of care, even hospitalizations, where they really didn't need to, and we can maybe serve them in the community and in their homes. We wanted to create a quick access to a crisis bed because, as you know, sometimes when families are in crisis, sometimes if we can separate things for just a little bit, we can help calm things down and then bring the family back together so that they can deal with the trauma that's been going on within the family. We also have a need to begin treatment and interventions quickly. So when they come in, we immediately put either the crisis bed or FCT services in place for them from day one. And then we work to do an assessment. We work to figure out what services are needed. We do a child and family team meeting. We do an assessment, and it gets everybody on the same team. And we go ahead and start putting some supports around this youth and their family so that we can help them to move forward in the healing process for not only the youth, but for the family as a whole.
And Jeannie, so it also makes me think that looking at the slide, day one, we start the interventions, and then we work toward the assessment. That's different because usually you have to set up the assessment before you can ever get to the service. And that's one thing that I like about the flip-flop of this.
Yes. Day one services get put in place and get started while we're working on the other things to move them into what is the appropriate next level of care for them. Okay, you can, there you go. So as we talked about, the collaborators on this is District 19, the Juvenile Justice for District 19, which is Cabarrus, Montgomery, Moore, Randolph, and Rowan. We do this through a state DJJ funding. There's a grant that comes out, and we apply for it. We've done this for 3 years. I think we just applied for our 4th year. We don't know yet if we've gotten it for the 4th year, but we did just apply again. We also do this, of course, with the Family Center Treatment Foundation because we're providing FCT, as well as Pinnacle Family Services, where it's our FCT clinicians and our crisis beds that are utilized in the coming together to collaborate around this grant.
And this is the name of the grant, right?
Yep. So that is the name of the grant. It's the JCPC Intensive Intervention Services Grant. That's the name of the proposal that comes out. And then for us, it is our Family Centered Treatment and Fostering Solutions is the name of the program that we use to be able to do this grant and pull it together for them.
And it's the Juvenile Justice District 19, which is the 5 counties that were mentioned.
Yep. That's where we do this. So we're going to take a few minutes to talk about the Fostering Solutions model. I don't know, do we want to try to take any questions about anything so far before we start into the models?
Will, do you have any questions that's come up?
So far, no questions have come through the comment section, but if you guys would like to take a minute and just see, does anybody have any questions?
Yep, we can.
I really love that quote that you put up there, DeVault, about "Don't ask me what's wrong with me, ask what happened to me." That's an amazing thing that I know that as a foster parent that I could definitely use, because as foster parents sometimes we get those questions like, "What's going on with your kid?" Like, don't ask what's wrong with them. Also, it's none of your business what happened to them, but
right,
there's nothing wrong with it.
That's right.
Right. Absolutely.
Not seeing any questions. So
Okay.
We'll move on, Jenny. I'll advance to them.
Yep. And feel free to put questions in there if you have them. All right. So, as we mentioned before, what we try to do is pull together 2 trauma-informed models to work in this grant. So the first one is our fostering solutions. This is our therapeutic foster care model. Because this grant itself is for 30 days, we're not able to hit all aspects of our model. So we have created a checklist of things we feel like we can do in those 30 days. And then if they remain with us and we continue the model, but you'll also see there's some fidelity documents that also fit with FCT. So it makes it a good flow back and forth between the 2 service models. So if they come out of our crisis bed and go into FCT and remain there, then we've already laid a little bit of the foundation to get that started. So you can see that we have domains. We try to work with them on connecting. So fostering solutions is not only trauma informed, but it's relationship focused. We truly try to work on the relationship between the foster parent and the child that's in their home. I think some models and some other ways of working with foster care, we have spent a lot of time trying to make sure the coordinator is very in tune with the child, like that our worker knows what's going on, and not that they shouldn't know what's going on, but the relationship that really needs to be fostered is the one between the foster parent and that child, because they're the ones who have that child 24/7. So we need to ensure that our relationship is with the foster parent and that we're supporting them, we're giving them skills that they need, we're providing them training, support, all those things. That's what our job is for them, to help them and support them in their relationship with this child, because they're the ones who are going to truly make this connection with the child that's in their home. So we try to work on having them settle in. That's kind of helping them settle into the home when they get there. We want them to then be able to connect to themselves. We want them to connect to significant others. And yes, that's the foster parent, but that's also their biological parent, or where, anyone else who is a key significant person in that child's life. And they they will tell us that. We will see that in information that we have. We will know who those key significant people are, and we will work with them to try to strengthen those relationships. And then, of course, we want them to connect to their community and the world outside that they will have to go be a part of, as we all do as we go through this life. So those are the domains that we utilize and that we try to work on with the kids. And then we also have fidelity documents that we do to try to help us reach that. So one of the first ones is solution cards, which we'll talk a lot more about. We'll actually have you try to at least do the first step of a solution card through this. We also do eco maps for those who are not familiar. It's literally drawing a map of the child, the relationships that affect their lives every day. Are those relationships strong? Do we need to do more work with them? Are they not so strong? Are there things that we need to help them with in trying to strengthen all the relationships that affect their lives every day? We also use a pediatric symptoms checklist. That's kind of a pre and post. We do it at the beginning and at the end to make sure that we have hopefully started moving this child in the right direction towards their healing process. We do a case intro, which includes a MIGS, which is part of the mapping that we were talking about. We also discuss what interventions are needed, what goals we should be working towards, and what strategies we're going to use in doing that. That's the MIGS process is really how we look at these and work with every child and every situation, because there's no everything that's going on with that child involves a relationship of some kind in some place. So by mapping that, creating interventions around that, creating goals and strategies, it really helps us work with that child to strengthen those relationships and make things hopefully start moving in the right direction for them. We also do a strengths and resource inventory. We are very strengths oriented. We want to work from the strengths of the child. To Devalt's point, don't ask what's wrong with me. Don't talk about the deficits that you see. Let's talk about what's going right. What are your strengths? And let's just build on those. We do a successful adaptation checklist, and that's as we were talking through the domains and they are starting to connect to things, we want to know that they're adapting well. So in each one of those domains, we utilize the successful adaptation checklist to tell us whether they have successfully adapted and whether we need to move forward or whether we need to remain and do more work within the domain that we're in. We create a safety plan for every kid that comes in, for just like it says. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's to ensure that everybody's safe while we're doing the work that we're doing around the trauma. And then we create a shared parenting plan. We create those with everybody. If DSS is their guardian, we create a shared parenting plan with them. You know, what parts are they going to do? What parts are we going to do? What's the next steps? How do we, who do we need to be working with as these kids step down and step away from our foster homes? So we create that with everybody who comes in to our program. So those are fidelity documents. Those are done on every single kid that comes through. All right, solution cards. So this assists, we do this with both the youth and the foster parents. We're trying to identify triggers for them. It's literally a card that they have. And we have, as I said, a foster parent complete it and the youth complete it. It helps them in developing strategies when triggers occur to help us avoid crises. So if there's certain triggers, and when those triggers happen, we go ahead and create steps that need to be taken in order for us to hopefully not go into a full-blown crisis. Maybe we can divert a crisis. We can utilize what the child feels will be the steps that need to be taken in order for them to be able to regulate themselves again and bring themselves out of that crisis situation. We do this within 7 days of placement.
Now, Jeannie, is that the same for the grant?
It is. I mean, yeah. So they have to be completed within 7 days of placement, but they are typically completed day one. That's like the first thing the coordinator does. But we do give them 7 days because sometimes you have to build a little bit of rapport with a child before you can get them to fully engage into the solution card process. But we start working on that day one, but they have to be completed within 7 days, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
These are living, breathing documents. It's not a one and done kind of thing. When crises occur, we re-look at the solution card. Did it work? Did it not work? Are there things that we need to adjust, change, revise? So we have those. That's not like a one-time thing. We also have foster parents complete these. So because when you have a situation, foster parents can also get triggered by behaviors that the child is bringing to the table. And when that happens, foster parents have to find a way, and this is true for all parents. In this situation, we're specifically referring to foster parents. Foster parents have to find a way to regulate themselves too, so that they don't do things that help create a crisis, that help engage in a crisis, that they can actually regulate themselves and help so that they can then help the child become more regulated. These are also reviewed as needed with each placement. And they too are they are a living, breathing document. They're not something we do one time. It's not something we think we're going to do this, and then every kid that comes in the house, this is going to work. So we try to review it every time with them so that we can keep the solution card current, up to date, and something that is effective for them in these situations. So when we get crisis calls, one of our very first questions to them is, what does your solution card say? Have you looked at your solution card? What does it say? Because we want to remind people to go back to that. Like, we planned for this back at the beginning with the solution cards. Now let's pull them out and utilize them and make sure it's working. So, all right. So we're going to do another activity where we're going to have you creating your own solution card. So we're just going to do one thing on your solution card. So when you are, let's say, I don't know what your trigger might be. Maybe your trigger could be people leaving dishes in the sink and not putting them in the dishwasher when the dishwasher's right there. So
after you've told them.
After I've told them, and they still leave them in the sink, and then I have to go put them in the dishwasher, and the dishwasher's literally right there next to the sink. So if that's a trigger for you, so whatever yours is, that could be mine. So the question is, what's the first thing you have to do when you see those dishes in the sink? What's the first thing that you feel like you need to do so that you don't then create a crisis within the home? So for me, I have to take a deep breath. I literally have to stand there, take a deep breath, and I know I can't have my first reaction, because my first reaction is going to create a crisis in the home. It's going to create probably some yelling, some drama, some things that we don't want to happen. So for me, I walk to the sink, I see dishes in there. I'm going to literally have to take a deep breath, take a second before I respond or react to the dishes in the sink. So for you, what would that be for you? Like, what would be a trigger for you, and what would be a first step that you feel like you would need to take, that you would write on your solution card as this is the first thing I need to do when things trigger me?
And Jeannie, you want people to put that in the comments?
Yes. Yep. If you could put those in the comment.
And just a real quick question from Nicole: is Fostering Solutions program available for kids and families who are not affiliated with Pinnacle, or only for those within your regional area?
So Fostering Solutions is our own model, our own developed model. So it is, and Pinnacle's not just in District 19. Pinnacle is statewide. So it's available to kids that are in our foster homes.
Okay.
Fostering Solutions model. If I didn't answer the question, let me know. But it's only.
I believe you did.
The other thing, Will, that I would say is that our Tuesday tips, we want that to go to as many people as possible, where we're sharing information about trauma and resiliency.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So again, the question to put in the chat was, what was the question for the chat, Jeannie? Sorry, I derailed us with.
I'm sorry. No, it's fine. In the chat, if they could, if someone was willing to share kind of what a trigger would be, and what's the first step that they would put on a solution card for themselves to keep themselves from going into a full-blown crisis.
Oh, I got one. Lying. Oof, lying.
Lying.
Right.
So Will, if there was a situation where a youth was lying to you, and instead of going off, what would you try to do to get yourself in a better place before you even talk to the kid about the situation?
So the first thing that I would do is try and figure out why they're lying, right? Are they lying to give themselves time? Are they lying because they think I'm stupid? Because that's where my mind immediately jumps. They think I'm dumb, and so they can lie to me, and they think they'll get away with it. Or are they lying because they've been taught that they need to lie to protect themselves? So I try and figure out what's going on behind the lie.
So you're going to do some self-reflection about that, right?
Yeah. I go to my head a lot. Everything goes up into my head.
So for you, your one of your first things on your solution card would be to do self-reflection, because that is the first thing that you have to do. So if you had a kid in your home who lied to you, rather than just going off, you would stop, do some self-reflection, which is what you'd want on your solution card. I have to stop and do self-reflection. So if we had a crisis in your home, we would come to you and say, Will, did you look at your solution card? Did you do your self-reflection? And if you didn't, then that would say to you, okay, shoot, I forgot to do my self-reflection and I just kind of blew up. And which could then create a full-blown crisis from both sides. It could create a power struggle, and then you're in a full-blown crisis within the house. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And we've got a lot of cool techniques that are going on in the chat too. Tracy Reed said that they stop, take a deep breath, and calm down first after a trigger. And then Nicole said she counts to 5 before she responds.
Yeah. So, Jeannie, in looking at time, that you want to say something. This is an example, right?
Yeah. So these are some examples of an actual solution card where they wrote, I'll stay calm and take 5 deep breaths before handling the situation. I will make sure I take a timeout to remain calm. I'll call friends for support. Then it lists some of the people that they would call, that would need to be called, the phone number. So it's all right there, readily available. So these are some things that have come out of actual solution cards that folks have written down and put. So you can see, like I said, when you have a crisis, we immediately say, what does your solution card say? And have you taken those steps? If not, let's take them now.
And I think that brings us up. Well, you wanted to talk about the crisis bed before we go.
Yeah, and I think that we've covered some of that. So whenever we do get a crisis bed call from the court counselors, we immediately look for a bed, and then we work with them to create a how we're going to get them there, make sure that everybody's on board with what we're doing. And then we make that placement for them as quickly as we can.
Lots of going back and forth and phone calls and emails, right?
Lots of that. And, and we have we have several foster parents that this is really what they want to do. Like they want to do crisis beds. They want to be able to help kids out who are in crisis, and then be able to, work with them for those 14, 21 days. And then those kids will move on to their next step. And then they'll take in another kid who's in crisis. We have several foster parents that's what they enjoy doing, trying to help the kid get started in the right direction.
Right. So Shay, you're up next.
All right. Well, thank you. So I'm probably going to have a lot of enthusiasm talking about family-centered treatment because I love it. We have this running joke for years that, once you drink the FCT Kool-Aid, you never go back. And so I am just asking you to tilt your head back today so I can pour a little bit of FCT Kool-Aid into your mouth. And so, FCT is a evidence-based treatment practice. It is trauma informed. We are really excited that we've incorporated some additional trauma activities. So I want to kind of talk about what this model looks like. If you can hit the next slide for me. Deval. So FCT has what we call 4 phases of treatment. And so it is a very structured model. It's a systemic model, which means that we, kind of have the approach that we don't treat one person, we treat the entire family. And so, this model, in my opinion, is very effective because we know that from an environmental standpoint that we just can't fix one person in a system and expect the system to get better. So the first thing that we do in family-centered treatment is what we call joining. And this is where we really go in as a clinician or a practitioner and really learn as much as possible about a family. We know, or we should know, that most of the time we can't influence change until we build a relationship. And that's exactly what we're trying to do in this first 30 or 35 days of treatment, is really create a relationship with the families that we serve. So it's really about, being comfortable. There are quite a few things that we do in this phase of treatment to build that rapport. We have quite a few activities that we do with the families to get some additional information. But really, we're really trying to make sure that we, minimize crises and that we build relationship. That's our goal for joining. When we look at restructuring, it really is kind of what it says. It's really shifting that family in the way that they feel that they want, in the direction that they want to go. So it's really providing a lot more directive suggestions and interventions and activity that really is going to give the family new ways of doing things. For many of us, we know that we kind of get in the pattern of doing things. We know we probably shouldn't yell, but we've been yelling for so long that it's just normal. Like, it's just how we communicate with each other. And so this is, the part of treatment that can be a little bit challenging for the families, because this is when we are really encouraging and pushing and nicely nudging some different type of behavior. One of the things that's so great about this model is that it is very experiential, which means that we don't do talk therapy. It is, if there are bedtime routines that need to be addressed, we need to model those bedtime routines. Then we need to be at your house at bedtime to be able to help and show and model those things for you. So we do use a lot of experiential activities that really go a long way for most families that need that modeling of behavior versus just telling them what to do. Value and change is a phase of treatment that we really highly value. Not that all the other ones are not important, but value and change is a phase of treatment where we really are starting to see our families practice these skills and kind of own them. And so, the beauty of this is that they create their own measurements of success. So we're not looking at, the neighbors next door or the family down the street. This is when our family really are practicing these skills that they've learned more consistently. They're taking ownership. We hear that shift in the way that they talk about. It's not just Bob, that's the problem. We all did something that contributed to an issue. And so it's really when they start to internalize these things. It's the beauty. It's almost like a light bulb. It's so beautiful to watch too. It's like a light bulb goes off with our families, and they really start to understand that all of those things that I was really upset with you about and getting us to try and restructuring makes sense now. And so, another thing that we'll talk about just a little bit later is what we call our family giving back project, which is also a part of this phase of treatment. When we look at our last phase, it's generalization, what we call generalization. And this is when our families are giving us the peace sign. They're like, goodbye, we made it. This is really a time of celebration and preparation for what is to come. So we know we have an expectation, and we are very aware that we may not leave our families in perfect condition. There is no perfect family. So there are some things that may have come through this model that need some additional focus. Some more, we may have found out that there is extensive trauma that needs some more specialized care. We definitely get our families at this point to be able to step down from the services that they're in. They're very stable at this point. We're saying goodbye. We have a very special celebration for our families that we love so much to have and to participate in, this is where it's really time to say goodbye. And it's hard sometimes for us as the practitioners. It's hard for the families, even though they probably tried to fire us a couple times throughout treatment. But this is usually, the time that really we're preparing our families to kind of do these things on their own, manage without a lot of professionals, mandated people sometimes in their lives telling them what to do.
And Shay, FCT is a 4 to 6 month model, so there's time to go through all the different phases of treatment.
Absolutely. So when we think about some of the fidelities, as Devon and Jeannie has mentioned already, the beauty of bringing both of these models together is that foundationally they've gotten some of these things already. So you guys, we just completed a solution card together, and it is really just kind of a catalyst of making sure that we are planning for crises. I don't know about you guys, but there is something that's going to happen. We cannot avoid that. It is going to happen. It's just nature. Like, it is going to happen. And so really predicting what those things can be and really finding ways to be able to manage those without it going into crises. Jeannie already talked about eco maps, but I really just want to kind of add is that, this is just a visual way to look at our lives on a sheet of paper and say, what are the good things that's happening in our lives? And what are some things that are really, really stressful? What we tend to find is that, when we put this map of people's lives on a sheet of paper, they don't really see or didn't realize how much supports they have. And sometimes those supports are underutilized. So the eco map is a really good way to really help guide individual family members to identify what their supports and stressors are. And these are actually done with every member of the family, just as well as solution cards. Everything that we do, with the exception of a few things, are done with every family member in the home. They are, and I always usually say this in my, thank you, Joseph, but I usually say this in my presentations is like, for anybody who's done an eco map, the eco map in FCT is like a eco map times 10. So we're finding so much information about families. It's such a great joining technique to learn so much information. Sometimes I've always used this analogy that I probably can get more information from an eco map than I can a clinical assessment. And so what we do next is what we call a family life cycle. And so this is a technique, a tool that we use in FCT that is just for caregivers and parents. And so it really is a guided timeline of how that parent was raised, right? So really identifying what that parent or that caregiver experienced as a child up until even their adulthood. All of those things impact the way that we parent. And so it is a really good activity to really slow down the process, to help our families see that the things that sometimes they said, I'll never do as a parent, that they've ended up doing those things with their own children. And so it's a really good, it is a very intrusive process. I usually say this is where we kind of start getting a little resistance, because we are digging, and letting go of some of the things that we said we needed to let go, and really acknowledging the things that we absolutely kept that we didn't want to. And what we also go through what we call a structured family assessment, which is bringing that whole family together, and really going back through 3 generations of looking through generational trauma, identifying strengths, resources, shared goals, commitments. So this process is so unique. It's not just a genogram, right? It is pulling family members together to have conversations that they may have never had before, pulling family members together to actually start the process of trying to communicate with each other. Sometimes it's great and sometimes it goes left. But overall, this process is a really unique process for our family. We pull all that information together in what we call a family-centered evaluation, where we're really transparent with our families. One of the things that I really like about this model is that there's a level of transparency with our families that basically we are not leaving you in the dark of anything. We're going to tell you what we see. We're going to tell you what we observe. And typically what we do is we give them a very thorough evaluation to say, here is the first 30 days of treatment. I want you to read everything that I've gathered about your family. And if you agree with it, I want you to put your signature on it saying that you agree. But it really brings and ties all of these things together that really helps that practitioner in the next phase of treatment create like a very specialized recipe for how you're going to move that family forward. Another unique thing about FCT is what we call emotional blocks. And so for any of you guys who've been in the field for a long time, is this idea that people want to do better, right? And there may be something getting in the way of them doing better. Right? A parent may really want to hug their child and have that attachment, but there may be something in their own past that's getting in the way of making that interaction very uncomfortable or being very avoidant of that interaction. So those are things that are incorporated as we address trauma in FCT that we really go back and look. And really, if you think about the family life cycle has really set that foundation for us to have an inkling of what could be preventing that parent or that child or anybody in that household, in doing some of those things that really create healthy attachment. The last thing I want to talk about here is Family Giving Back Project, and we'll actually talk about this in depth a little bit, is that, we require our families in FCT to give back. We really feel like there is a power in giving. And so family members are required to complete a service project, whether that is for their immediate, extended family, immediate family, or the community. And so we really believe, and a really good quote from Oprah Winfrey is, to move forward, you have to give back. And I love passing it forward. I love the intentionality and the message behind giving back to people. We really want to make sure that we have planted a seed for our families that they continue to plant in their lives and their communities. And so, there are several things that some of our family members have done in terms of giving back projects. I love to kind of toot my own horn when it comes. I was a practitioner in FCT, but there's so many things that families can do to give back. And I just want to share a couple of the give back projects. Sorry. There we go. So we kind of talked about this, the restorative to family, giving back replaces the shame, right? And the pride within their family. It really is this discovery for our families that they may not have had before of just dignity, self-worth. I'm a member of this community. I have purpose in this community. And then always, sending the message that I can be helpful. And so some of those examples of family giving back projects has been, we've had families that have written letters to future FCT families to kind of give them a like, hey, stick in there, it's going to be hard, but see it all the way through to the end. We've also had families that have, raked elderly's yards or their neighbors' yards, visiting someone at a retirement home, or writing letters to soldiers, picking up trash at local parks. Again, letter writing, helping neighbors move, sharing recovery stories with one another. I personally was able to watch one of my kiddos give her teachers an award ceremony, and she killed it. She found some community resources, found some free food, put together some certificates for them, had them come up and collect their certificates. The teachers had no idea that she was planning all of this, and they had just been so pivotal in her progress through many moves and changes and placements. They made sure that she stayed at that school and really wrapped her. And that was her way of giving back to them. And so there are so many things. One of my organizations actually just recently talked about they have had family members that have written messages on, rocks in the community and went and, kind of put those rocks out throughout the community. And another one of our family members in the same program found a rock, and it said they really needed that message that day. So there are so many things that families are doing. This is probably one of the things in our treatment model that I love to see families doing. It just goes to show that, probably at this point, 4 or 5 months prior to this, our families probably couldn't even communicate with each other. And we got a whole system in place to create a service project, which speaks volumes about the changes that they've made in their families. I am going to pass it back to Jeannie.
Yep. What makes this collaboration work, Jeannie, as
Yep.
we're getting ready to wrap up?
Yep. So I think really what makes this collaboration work, one of the biggest things is just the relationship that we have between ourselves and the foundation and District 19, the juvenile justice district there. Whenever we first started this, as you can imagine, there were several bumps in the road, things we had to work out. We all were committed to it and we stuck together, and we have been able to work through those processes. We have created a centralized referral process that makes it easier on the court counselors to refer to us and to get to get responses. We have routine meetings that we do with them. We have weekly updates we give them. We have truly been able to just pick up the phone when there's been a problem and work through it, come together again with everybody in the collaboration, wanting to do what is best for these kids and just being willing to put forth the effort and the trust that's needed to make it work. So I really think that's what makes this collaboration work so well.
So, given the time, we're not going to be able to do this. Wanted to start out with a sense in activity and then end with one. But here's one that you can do for yourself, and this is in the PowerPoint, so you can replicate that. But so in this scavenger hunt, virtually, we would have you to find something red and go get it and bring it back and show us, and then go find something in your environment that makes a noise. Go find something that you can eat. Find something that you can touch that feels good, and you see the person with the cat. And find something that has a smell, and you see a dirty sock. But there could be good smells as well. This is an activity that you could do with children and youth. It could be not virtual, but doing it. And we have a lot of scavenger hunts that we post on our Facebook page and social media. But given the time, we're not going to have time to do that. There's resources. A slide was up but there's 2 pages of resources. And then a last contact. You can contact me or Jeannie through me, and then Shay's information is there. And do you have any questions as we are ready to wrap things up?
I'm not seeing any questions other than, is there a key for acronyms being used? Talking to Jeannie a little bit, we might be able to push something out just for the different acronyms that might be used for those of us who might not be super familiar with this specific kind of realm of foster parenting.
Yeah.
But no, are there any questions that we have for our presenters? If so, please feel free to put them in the comments.
Well, as that's happening, one thing that I want to say is that I appreciate the Alliance for putting this together. Thank all of you who are foster parents for the hard work that you do. We know for a fact that it's not easy to do what you do. It takes special people to do what you do. We need more people to do. You know that we're in a crisis related to foster care. The Alliance knows that. And, one of the reasons that I was interested in doing this presentation is that there's a lot of need for youth, for teenagers that don't have foster parents to go to. And so we need to get the word out. Like Jeannie was saying, there's some families that would be willing to do crisis when they would not be willing to fully commit to ongoing foster care. But we need to support you all that do it and find more people that would be willing to do it.
That is really good. Well, thank you so much, Deval. Thank you, Shay and Jeannie, for taking time on your Saturday, which I'm sure you guys have very busy, full weeks normally. So thank you for taking this time on the weekend to come and speak with us to teach us about this amazing program. So yeah, just on behalf of the Alliance, thank you guys so much for being here. I think next up we've got a break. And then I believe at like 12 o'clock, we have another session where we're going to talk about our different groups or regions. So Cup of Joe by Joe at 12 p.m. So thank you, Joe. All right, y'all. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.